Chicago police arrest 14-year-old boy and his mother after the teen shot and killed a man to stop him from assaulting his mother. Was this shooting justified? Let's talk about it.
This is Criminal Justice Corner, where we discuss true crime stories. We give the real details surrounding what occurred, and just in case you find yourself in the same situation, we give you actionable advice and tips on how you can potentially get yourself out. I'm Dr. Jennifer Matthews, the host of the Criminal Justice Corner. I have 16 years of experience in the field of criminal justice and a doctoral degree in criminal justice. I am also an expert in video evidence. Today, I have with me a special guest, Tori Houseworth. Ms. Houseworth is a police officer out of Northwest Indiana, a crime analyst, and instructor of criminal justice. Tori, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Good morning. Prior to relocating to Northwest Indiana, I served as a federal police officer, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being my special guest today. Let's dive into this episode. According to Chicago police, around 11 p.m. on Sunday, June 18th, 2023, 35-year-old Carlishia Hood and her 14-year-old son, Nick, went to Maxwell Street Express for takeout in Chicago. In surveillance footage released by the Chicago Police Department, only Hood exits her vehicle and enters the restaurant. While waiting in line, Carlishia Hood gets into an argument with 32-year-old Jeremy Brown. There were videos of the argument posted on social media, which captures the argument just prior to the shooting. In one of the videos, Jeremy Brown can be heard yelling, "If you say one more thing, I'm going to knock you out." Tori, what are your thoughts about this incident up to this point?
So I think the moment you make a threat towards someone, it becomes a criminal issue at that point. The moment you
Definitely.
make a threat, that's assault at the minimum. So he's already starting off on the wrong foot.
I agree with that. And then also for him to threaten a woman, and also he's created a hostile environment for her, and he's a stranger. So she doesn't know what he's capable of. So this whole scenario has escalated, and we don't know what can happen at this point. So I'm sure she's fearful because she doesn't know what he's going to do. Of course, she's probably thinking, of course, he can't tell me what to do because that's what I would be thinking. But she doesn't know what's going to happen, and who knows what that argument was about or how it started. But I think his actions were violent as well, or could be considered violent, saying if you say one more thing, like who you're talking to is what I would be thinking.
Absolutely. And at one point in the video, he also tells her that she needs to leave. And that's the other issue that I had with it, is that both of them are in a public place and
Definitely.
there's an exchange of words. But who is he to tell her that she needs to leave a public place as well?
He's
And
definitely not the owner of that restaurant. So who,
exactly,
again, who is he talking to? And what gives him the authority to say those things to her or even talk to her like that?
exactly.
Now, just moments later, Jeremy Brown can be seen violently and repeatedly punching Hood in the head while patrons in the restaurant exit. The video ends with what sounds like gunshots. In other videos posted online, Hood's son, Nick, can be seen standing in the doorway of the restaurant, looking in at first with a hand in his pocket. Then he appears to react, assumingly by shooting, because I have yet to see any video of the actual shooting, me personally. And it is alleged that the teen continued shooting as Brown ran from the store, with both the teen and his mother following Brown into the parking lot while the teen was shooting. After the teen stopped shooting at Brown, his mother allegedly told Nick to shoot Brown's girlfriend, who authorities said encouraged Brown during the earlier altercation to, to continue the argument or escalate the argument, if you will. Prosecutors also reportedly said Hood tried to grab the gun herself before her son shoved her off and the two fled the scene in her vehicle. Brown ultimately died from his injuries, and both Hood and her son turned themselves in to police and were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Hood and her son have no reported criminal background. Now, Tori, what are your thoughts now that you know this more information?
So I think when you look at it from beginning to end based on the information that we have right now, so use of force says
Yep.
that you can use a deadly weapon for self defense, for yourself or to protect someone else. And I believe that this 14-year-old boy was reacting out of self defense for his mother. And whether she told him to shoot or not, I think he was just trying to protect her.
I definitely agree with that. And then also, when he peeked into the restaurant the first time, he was observing the scene. And what he saw was a stranger, a grown man, violently beating his mother. And I feel like he reacted the best way he could in that situation.
I would say so too. And I think any normal person would have that same reaction. Now, I can't say that, okay, everybody would shoot, but ultimately, the default response in your brain is to react. You're going to do what you can to protect your relative or to help your relative that's being attacked. And she was being brutally attacked. It just wasn't a one time hit. He kept coming with the blows.
He did. He definitely did. And then to hear that his quote unquote girlfriend was egging him on. I that baffles me that a woman could encourage a male to beat another woman. That
Absolutely.
if that was true, because at this point it's alleged, if that was true, that baffles me and that is sickening.
It is sickening. And also, that other people were standing around and didn't try to help in any form. And that has also become a repeated thing in our society now. People are so quick to pull up those cell phone devices and record versus calling the police or trying to help someone that's become a victim of whatever.
I I agree, and I agree. That's sickening as well. We're going to record, we're going to stand by the sidelines and watch a tragedy unfold, and in this case, a death unfold versus calling the authorities.
Absolutely.
And possibly, we don't know, possibly his life could have been saved had the authorities been called sooner. Possibly, we don't know. But this is the day and age we're living in where people care more about a video capturing the incident versus contacting the authorities. And I just think that's ridiculous, honestly.
I think it is. I would agree too.
Yeah. Now, their arrest raised a lot of debate on social media. People were really divided. However, this case attracted the attention of rapper Nicki Minaj, where she posted on Instagram. Her post read, "If he wants to go to college," referring to Nick, "I'd love to help." She wrote on her Instagram page as well, "It's what any son should have done for their mother. She raised a dope kid and should be proud." So even Nicki Minaj recognizes that he did the right thing in supporting his mother and getting his mother out of harm's way when, as you just stated, no other patron in there, and there were men in there, that no other patron stepped in to help his mother.
Agreed.
Now, a few days later, prosecutors dropped the charges against Carlishia Hood and her son Nick. They issued a statement saying, "Based upon our continued review and in light of emerging evidence, today the Cook County State's Attorney's Office has moved to dismiss the charges against Carlishia Hood and her 14-year-old son. Based upon the facts evidence, and the law, we are unable to meet our burden of proof in the prosecution of these cases. Now, Tori, what are you thinking about the charges being dropped against them?
I look at the situation in multiple perspectives, and as usual, how we talk daily is that we weren't there, and for any murder case, there does have to be a heavy burden of proof, and I think Kim Fox, in this case, she's just confirming like, hey, we don't have enough, and if we do try this based on what we have, we may lose, and that can put them more at risk at the end of the day. And I think based on the evidence that they have, it obviously is seen more in a self defense situation, which is a defense.
I definitely agree with the charges being dropped. And I think possibly in this case that the police rushed to judgment. I don't feel like any investigation was conducted, like a thorough investigation was conducted. Yes, they turned themselves in and they were arrested and the charges were brought, but did they investigate? Did they have all the video at that time? What kind of investigation was done? So that's how I
Exactly.
feel about these charges being brought so quickly.
Right. And that's kind of, the norm in a lot of investigations. You can only work with what you have to work with. And I think at the end of the day, it's very obvious that based on the evidence that they have that uh, this gentleman was the aggressor. He escalated it in the beginning because everyone has freedom of speech. There's exchange of words back and forth. And the moment you tell someone, hey, you need to leave, and you start displaying volatile body language, you start clenching your fist, getting in their face, you're the aggressor at that point.
Definitely.
And then you act
Yeah,
upon it.
exactly. He definitely did act upon it. He didn't just say it, he acted upon those words.
Yep.
Now, just a day after being released, Carlishia Hood announced she was suing because her life changed when her and her son were arrested. She states, "What happened to me was totally unnecessary." Hood's lawyer, Brandon Brown, confirmed that a 4-count complaint had been filed against the city and for arresting cops. The complaint contains counts of malicious prosecution, false arrest, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, according to Brown. Now, I definitely think those charges were warranted. And because they were so quick to rush to judgment, that she should file a lawsuit. And I love to see that she did it right away because that's sending a message. A lot of times people wait months, they wait years to file a lawsuit. She wasted no time in filing her lawsuit, and I applaud her for that. What do you think, Tori?
I think so too. I like to see if someone's going to take some sort of litigation that it is done right away. And as you said, it sends a message, but it also lets them know like, hey, these are very serious, allegations, and I want this dealt with. And I think probably her lawyer's going to find out once he does some more digging that there's probably some other things that didn't go well during the interrogation process too. And I can't say exactly what it is yet, but I'm sure there's probably some issues that took place during the interrogation process as well.
I can definitely see that. And I also see this lawsuit as being the first step in Carlishia Hood regaining her reputation back because initial reports of this incident were definitely defaming towards Carlishia Hood and her son. So I definitely think this lawsuit sends a message and it will definitely help her in the long run.
I think so too. And, a lot of people were being very harsh in the beginning. Like, who is she to make her 14-year-old son, go and kill this man? And, everyone was either on one side or the other. And there's so many different ways that you can look at it. But at the end of the day, you got to put yourself in their shoes, and then you got to look at what's legal versus not legal, at the end of
I,
the day.
I totally agree. And I'm just really proud that she is not wasting time in filing this lawsuit. Now, another question that has been raised is, should self defense laws be revisited? What is your take on this?
Well, I'll ask you a question in return though. To what degree? To what degree should they be revisited?
Well, I would say the different stand your rights laws, because would the same thing happen, or would the same thing be would it be questioned, I should say? Would the same thing be questioned if if Illinois was a stand your right state?
That's a very good question. And I think that's one of those questions to where it's going to be a gray area
Right.
because in
I could
most,
see that.
yeah, in most stand your ground states, you are allowed to have a weapon, whereas Illinois, you have to have a FOI and concealed carry permit.
And we
So,
did find out that she did have a firearms identification card. She was a
exactly,
valid holder of that.
she sure was. So, I think that's one way I see it. There's a lot of gray areas, and I think the gray area would be more so in the states who have stricter gun laws. And in this case, Illinois is a place that has stricter gun laws, if that makes any sense.
It definitely does. We definitely have to jump through hoops here to be able to legally carry a firearm.
Agreed.
Now, one takeaway that I will say, and I think I always say it, is not for Carlishia Hood. I'm not saying this for her. I'm saying this for the bystanders. Put the phone down and call the police. Put the phone down and call the police. That's always my first course of action. Yes, it was good that there was some video taken because it definitely helped vindicate Carlicia. However, there were so many people there that did not step in. And I'm definitely not saying that you should put yourself in harm's way. But the second best way, if you're not going to step in, and that's still okay, but you can help by calling the police. The sooner the police get there, the sooner the situation can be rectified.
Agreed. 1,000%. Like, can you put that in big, bold letters, italic, the whole nine?
I mean, it's so important. We know that if, let's say, her 14-year-old son was not there, we don't know what that outcome would have looked like. Would she have just been beaten and bloodied just because she wanted to get some food? That would not have been a really good outcome, because Jeremy Brown could have been in the wind. She didn't know his name. The police might not have been able to find him. So this situation could have ended so many different ways. I'm definitely not saying that he should have died, but I am saying that people saw this happening. They saw this escalating and nobody called the police. Not saying they could predict the future that he was going to get shot. However, it was escalating. Nobody thought that there should have been a higher authority to intervene.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to piggyback off of that too, I think I'll talk about the rational choice theory in this one. You always need to be rational with the decisions that you make.
Uh-huh.
And they both could have walked away. One of them could have walked away. And
Okay.
I'm in agreement with you. I'm not saying that he should have lost his life in this case as well. But I think when you put yourself in a situation as he did, being the aggressor, you need to understand that there's going to be some sort of consequence to your actions
Mm-hmm.
when you don't think rationally, when you don't rationalize and weigh the consequences of your actions. And as a result of his actions, he lost his life.
I agree with that. And also, to play devil's advocate on that, on what you just said, he attacked her, but he had no idea of her capabilities. She could have been Ronda Rousey.
Absolutely. She could have. Easily.
So he had no idea going in to put his hands on another human being of what could have occurred. So that alone says something. Maybe he thought he was invincible. Maybe he thought he could, quote unquote, take her. But that was overthinking, or that was irrational thinking on his part. Because again, what if her 14-year-old son was not there and she was Ronda Rousey? He could have gotten beaten up. So you just can't overthink your part in any situation, and you definitely cannot go around putting your hands on another person, adult, child. You just can't do that.
Agreed. And one more thing I'd like to add on to that too, so that people understand and have to understand, as we say in the criminal justice world, everything's going to depend on the totality of the circumstances. And you can't just look at this case and say, okay, every other case could be a self-defense case. It's all going to vary based on the evidence and the details and what happened. Because I've seen cases to where attorneys have argued, hey, this is self-defense, and then someone still catches a murder charge. So you really have to be careful in everything. You really do. When you're in a situation like this, and especially if you are someone who legally carries a weapon, you have to know when to use it and when not to.
I definitely agree with that. And I feel like the concealed carry classes, the concealed carry license classes that we have are required to take in Illinois, that though they train you in that, not extensively, I'm not going to say that, but they do give you different trainings on that, and it's helpful. And of course, if you wanted more research, you could do that. But I definitely agree that that's something that people should research further if they're going to carry their weapon.
Exactly.
Now, do you have any takeaways?
I think I just pretty much kind of put them out there for the most part. And I guess at the end of the day too, one more thing is that I'll say is that, be mindful of just taking the law into your own hands, because it can go either way, you know.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
Now, in closing, you can find me, your host, Dr. Jennifer Matthews, on Instagram at Dr. Jennifer Matthews, and the podcast at Criminal Justice Corner. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend to tell a friend about Criminal Justice Corner. I will see you next time on Criminal Justice Corner podcast. New episodes are posted every Wednesday. Thank you for listening.